This is a white man's country, and white men will keep it so.
The people of Canada do not wish to make a fundamental alteration in the character of our population. Large-scale immigration from the Orient would change the fundamental composition of the Canadian population.
You know, when you listen to history, it's his story. He's telling us what he wants us to know. It's his story, it's not our story. He's telling us what he wants us to know. It's his story, it's not our story.
The government passed special legislation which fixed the tax of $50 on every Chinese entering the country. The head tax was raised to $100 and eventually in 1903 to $500.
We suffer political oppression, economic exploitation, and social degradation. All of them from the same enemy. The government has failed us. You can't deny that.
And nobody cared. And nobody wondered. And nobody understood. And nobody cared. And nobody wondered. And nobody understood.
Vancouver seethed with racial hatred. An Asiatic Exclusion League was formed. In 1887, Vancouver workers rioted in an anti-Chinese protest. Vancouver seethed with racial hatred. An Asiatic Exclusion League was formed. Any Oriental encountered was beaten mercilessly. An anti-Chinese protest. Any Oriental encountered was beaten mercilessly. Anti-Chinese protest. Any Oriental encountered was beaten mercilessly. An anti-Chinese protest.
An old woman can sin. An old man can sin. A chump can sin. A coward can sin. Anything can sin. Well, you and I have been sitting long enough, and it's time today for us to start doing some standing.
Dominion Day. The Canadian government introduced the Chinese Exclusion Act. The act stopped all Chinese immigration into Canada.
British, escaped the yellow peril.
You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy.
British, escaped the yellow peril.
You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy.
British, escaped the yellow peril.
For some strange reason, I can never be what I ought to be. Until you are what you ought to be. The rich man can never be what he ought to be. Until the poor man is what he ought to be. Any man's death diminishes me. Because I am involved in mankind.
Do you still think of yourself Chinese, or do you ever think of yourself as North American?
You know what, I want to think of myself as a human being.